I did. So yeah, yesterday we released the latest version I know. So a bit hangover, but I'm doing all right.
Did you have a release party yesterday?
Yeah, we hang out together with the guys. Not like a real party. We're just waiting for you to come back home, and then we're gonna have the awesome party.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Oh,
That's so
okay.
nice of you. Also on the line, I think we have Jerry and Nick from Ekahau. How are you guys?
Hey, UC, this is Jerry. I'm fantastic, excited to hear about all the new greatness.
And Nick Turner, I'm here as well. Very, very excited for V9.
Yeah, you don't know anything about the product, right? So this is the first time you hear about it, right?
What's the name of the product again?
It's called the Ekahau site plan. Well, something to that direction.
Okay. Yeah, I read something about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other products, but a bit worse, for what I've been told.
Hey,
anyway,
is this being recorded, right?
Yes. I hope we can clip the recording from the beginning and middle and end.
Well done, you made it this time.
Oh, actually, I didn't push the recording button. Somebody else did. I bet that was Jerry. So anyway, enough of that. Welcome to the webinar. We'll be walking through the features of the new product. Let's, quickly look at a couple of slides and then move to a product demo, which I'm sure is the more kind of interesting part. So here we go. First of all, just FYI, we have been doing this kind of Ekahau roadshow lately, where basically I've been driving across the US and then meeting all kinds of Wi-Fi guys in different cities. It's just something we found fun to do, and talk with the other Wi-Fi folks, stuff like that. If you're interested in more of this, or maybe making it a bit bigger next time, stuff like that, let us know, and we'd be happy to. The roadshow will still go on. Right now we're in Atlanta, Georgia, and next stop will be in a couple of days, Raleigh, North Carolina, and then Washington, DC, Wednesday next week. And yeah, so that's what we've been basically doing for the last couple of days, is driving across the states with a 20-year-old car, which for now has been okay, and talking Wi-Fi, making different stops. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Oh yeah, I used an old slide which was also showing version 9.1 features apparently. But we're going to talk about version 9.0, which is all about our new Wi-Fi planner, our capacity planner, especially focusing on high capacity, capacity calculations, airtime utilization, things like that. So what's new in version 9.0 is it's all about the new auto planner. So previously you were able to just draw areas and define capacity across the floor or across the building. But 9.0 has been completely refactored in terms of the auto planner with high capacity areas in mind. So it allows you to define the areas, low capacity areas, high capacity areas, for example, lecture halls, things like that. And the whole thing is completely rewritten, not just the auto planner, but the capacity analysis part as well. And it's easier to use, which I'm sure you will see pretty soon. A couple of new features that we needed to add to the auto planner, since Wi-Fi evolves, so must our auto planner. So the auto planner now supports dual 5 GHz APs. It's pretty conservative in putting it, moving the APs to dual 5, but Mikko, isn't the feature so that you can check whether you want to use dual 5 or not, and then it will use that, of course, if available in the APs.
That is correct.
And how many APs do we have that support dual 5? The Cisco 3800, some of the Aerohive 250.
Yeah, was it something like 4 or 5? I don't exactly recall that, but basically all of the available APs that support the dual 5 gig mode.
Okay, very cool. And I guess the more significant feature for most people is that it also disables unnecessary 2.4 GHz radios. We'll take a look at that as well. But it only disables 2.4 GHz radios if it sees that, you know, there's still enough coverage on 2.4. So if you, for example, have quite a good offset in terms of transmit power, if you have a much lower transmit power on 2.4 and a much higher in 5, then it may choose not to disable 2.4 radios because you might not get enough coverage. The tool also prevents AP overpopulation. This is something we, you know, versions before 9.0 tended to at times overpopulate the area with APs, and we kind of reversed it. So now the planner rather is very conservative in the AP placements. It never, it like avoids AP overpopulation at all costs. So it rather puts in too few APs and lets you kind of work your way through from there than overpopulates the environment, because overpopulation, as we know, destroys the capacity and the performance of the networks. And one very, very cool thing that we added is that the tool, kind of like, remember how we added the wall outlining wizard a long time ago, and the reason why it's pretty effective at stripping down the walls and kind of reading only the important parts of the walls is because it tries to understand the building structure. And using similar idea but different implementation, the autoplanner now understands, you know, where the hallways are, where the elevators are, without you marking them on the map, and it tends to kind of avoid placing APs where possible in the hallways, in the elevators. So it just makes the planning process a bit more quick, a bit more simple. And then the tool provides you more tools for high capacity analysis as well. So one feature that we are very proud of and that we put a lot of effort into is the airtime utilization heat map. So it allows you to analyze the Wi-Fi air quite robust and accurate manner, and we'll take a look at that during the demo as well. It just makes Wi-Fi more understandable and kind of, you know, gives you guidance on what factors should I consider when making the network design, whether band steering or transmit power differences, or, you know, minimizing the amount of management frame with low data rates, things like that, by disabling low data rates. So that's all I have in terms of the slides. So I think we're good to go for a demo. So then there's certainly questions, and we already received several questions on. Just a second here, let me switch to the application. So just to address a couple of frequently asked questions. First one is, how will I get my hands on, I'm now on 8.7, how will I get 9.0? So if you have a valid support contract with Ekahau, the annual support contract 9.0 upgrade is free. And you can just simply you know, start ESS and it will tell you a new version is available, hit the download button, and there you go. There's no like additional charges, additional fees, anything like that involved. So pretty simple upgrade. And the other frequently asked question is backward compatibility. So version 9.0 can read files from the older versions as always, but if some of your teammates are running 8.7, for example, and you go on and update to 9.0 and save a project, then your team members on the older versions of the tool will not be able to open those. Mikko, is that correct? And you have any other like frequently asked questions popped up already?
So I only heard or listened to the last question. Yes, so we do have lots of questions, but what was the question before that? I'm all busy already replying all the questions.
Yeah, I mean, how do I get the tool and valid support contract, stuff like that?
Oh yeah, so if you just have a valid support, the tool will prompt you to update, and direct from the application you can upgrade. And you could just go to our download site, ekahau.com/download/ESS. But bear in mind that you will need to have valid support to be able to use the latest version.
Exactly. So don't download and install it over the old version if you don't have a valid support contract, because it just will refuse to work, and then you have to reinstall the old stuff. Jerry, Nick, you have anything before we move on to the demo? Any frequently asked questions that might be relevant at this point?
Yeah, I had a question which I think is quite important. Was just what are we doing about the NIC 300 adapter?
Oh, good question. Good question. So starting from 9.0, we are no longer shipping the product with the NIC 300, but instead an 802.11ac Wi-Fi dongle. So the NIC 300 is no longer sold, and yeah, we are now supporting the Realtek-based 802.11ac Wi-Fi dongles for passive surveys, and it does multi-adapter and all that fun stuff as well. So plus the AC adapter is slightly faster at scanning the channels as well, but there's no significant difference there.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good question, sir. All right, on to the demo it is. So as always, we start by adding a map, and this is a university map that I've found in the internet. Thank you, universities, for sharing your floor plans there. It's much appreciated. Going to just change the layout. And this is a typical CAD floor plan, right? Pretty typical, but also the best case scenario in a sense that, just a few layers on the CAD drawing. The scale comes automatically as always. Then we take this seems to be, as you can see, blue color indicates interior walls. So we will map that as drywall. And then we have some windows, or Glas, as us Germans would call it. Also gonna put in the doors. And that looks pretty solid. I mean, we can work with that. Scale seems correct, so we'll just hit import. Just to have a floor plan, and that, the CAD import, as you know, that's been there already since 8.0 maybe. So nothing new really here. There we go. That's a pretty decent floor plan right there. And if we go and see the walls, yeah, there's the walls, there's the windows, it's all there. I'm just gonna hide it because we won't be needing those. All right, then off to the new stuff in 9.0. First of all, there's the area tool, which is now two different tools actually. It's the area and the exclusion area. And the area is used for both capacity planning and plane coverage planning. And it works pretty simply. You take the area tool. Here we have the selector for what kind of coverage do you want to deploy. So we're going to do the basic voice plus data, which means, if I recall right, it's like, is it NEC 67 or NEC 65, something like that. But a pretty general best practice for voice. Mikko, you worked on the profile. What's our, not that I couldn't check it from the UI, but what's our requirement for the voice and data? You remember?
Was next 67, probably, or next 65, next 67 most likely.
All right, and of course we can go and tweak that as well. So
well, but okay. There you have it in the legend actually.
Yeah, exactly. Next 67. There it is. So for the entire building, let's say we have a couple of hundred devices joining the network. So just punch it in here. So that area will now be designed for 200 devices and voice data. But then we have these lecture halls here in the middle, don't we? At least that's what it looks like classrooms, lecture halls, stuff like that. And those would be your typical high density area. So I'm going to draw another area there and punch in, 300 devices on that area. There we go. So now what happens is these conference rooms obviously will have 300 devices supported, and then the rest of the area, excluding the conference rooms, will have 200 devices. Fair enough. And by default, the 300 devices, for example, means we have 150 laptops and we have 150 smartphones, because typically people carry both of them with them. And we go to the advanced, we can see how that was divided. So laptops with a pretty low SLA of 2 megabits per second, and of course all this is adjustable. And the smartphones, it's kind of assumed that people are using their laptops and they will have smartphones on the table just doing background synchronization and stuff like that. But all of them will be associated to the network still. So obviously you can change the number of devices, the type of devices, and the applications run on the device. And this is kind of relevant for many reasons. Of course, how much applications are being utilized completely dominates the capacity planning of the network. And also, if these clients are running VoIP, then the airtime saturation will happen sooner for VoIP clients than if you're using plain data. For example, with plain data, it's okay to have like 60, even 70% airtime utilization of the network, but for VoIP clients, 30% is already pretty much the maximum, if I recall right. So we'll just treat VoIP a bit differently, and we'll take a look at how that works. So what do we do now? Now comes the new auto planner into the picture. We have defined the capacity, and at the simplest, it's just drawing the areas, putting in the numbers. So as we can see, we have 2 areas with 200 and 300 devices. We will consider capacity in plan. We will put in, let's say, Cisco 3800s here. And by the way, we incorporated the search tool also in here, so it's easier for you to filter out the unwanted AP, stuff like that. So we're deploying Cisco AP 3800, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz configuration. And this is the ESS default. So we kind of try to steer you towards reasonable network plans by adjusting the default transmit power level. So we put them at 8 dBm for 2.4 and 14 dBm on 5 gigahertz. And that's kind of a reasonable default in our opinion. It could be 6 and 12 as well, but that's okay for now. Then we can use the advanced settings. There's a lot of new stuff here. For example, allow dual 5 gigahertz mode and individual selection of the channels being supported. Mikko, wasn't it so that this was a pretty frequently asked feature?
Oh, absolutely.
We got how many requests did you get for selecting the individual channels? Dozens, right?
Absolutely, something that I didn't count anymore. Customers do keep on reminding us what is truly important, and this was definitely one of those features that we just had to do.
Exactly, gun to your head kind of a thing. Another thing that really matters when designing the Wi-Fi network is minimum data rates. So actually, I've been touring around the US now and been to, for example, different Marriotts. And greetings to IBAN. Could you please disable lower data rates in your networks, because it would function much better. So most of the Marriotts actually have all the lower data rates disabled, and excessive management frames, especially on 2.4. Anyways, then there's a band steering configuration. So if your infrastructure supports band steering, you can set the percentage, the targeted percentage of clients to associate on 2.4 and 5. But we're going to leave it disabled for now. Then you have the number of SSIDs, which also affects heavily on the amount of management frames. And then you have maximum associated clients per radio. And this is not like maximum amount of VoIP calls per radio. We address that automatically in the tool with the visualizations. This is the association limit. Let's say if you have a humongous number of client devices just associated in the network, then this would be that, not the void call limit. So we'll leave it at 200. It could be 100 or 50 or whatever. Then we'll hit create plan. And it takes its time to kind of crunch the numbers, looks at capacity, looks at coverage, and gives you a warning. It pretty easily gives you the warning that all requirements may not be met. Please review requirements. And this is also there just so that a capable Wi-Fi engineer should always look at the plan. Although ESS makes these days, as you can see, it makes solid network plans, but still the Wi-Fi engineer should review the plan and adjust accordingly. So as we can see here, how did the layout turn out? Pretty cool, actually. It's pretty close to what I would probably design myself as well for this kind of a network. So a couple of APs in the hallways, but most of them in the rooms. The high capacity area has more APs. There's less APs than in the non-high capacity areas. We have just one 2.4 gigahertz radio disabled. It is because 2.4 was already set to a much lower transmit power than 5 gigahertz. So Jerry, Nick, since you guys have actually designed and deployed networks for a long time for a living, what do you think of the plan? Oh, and actually, sorry, there's another 2.4 disabled here. But what do you think of the plan?
I think it looks like a solid design. I think the spacing of the APs, staggering them out, looks solid. And obviously the biggest factor here that we haven't been able to take into consideration in the past is that that second capacity area, which nowadays is becoming more and more critical, especially in certain environments. But I would say in general and with our customers, the majority of the environments, education, healthcare, things like that, you have these high density areas. So being able to factor that in, I think, is going to be a breath of fresh air for our customers, especially in those spaces.
Exactly, and it kind of, unlike before, the algorithm stops at when the frequency is fully utilized, when the spectrum is fully utilized, it doesn't add any more APs, so it never overpopulates, which is like one of the key things here as well. So let's see how the plan looks like on 5 gigahertz. Yeah, solid coverage, and on 2.4, solid coverage as well. But where we disabled the 2.4 radio, there actually is a small coverage gap here. So always review the design, go back, readjust if necessary. However, one could argue that that's fine if your clients are mostly or all of them are 5 gigahertz capable. Then that kind of gap might be fine. And there's still coverage there, but it's just below NEC 67. But again, always review the design. So that's signal strength. Let's look at channel overlap as well. So still pretty reasonable. In the high density area, there's no avoiding it. There will be some channel overlap, and we have a pretty strict requirement of 2 APs. So if we look at like a bit more forgiving scenario of 3 APs, we can see that, yeah, actually the channel overlap is not awesomely extensive anywhere in the area. So pretty solid, and I'm assuming on 5 gigahertz, yeah, there's no channel overlap whatsoever because the channel planning algorithm did its job. So pretty good. So far, so good. And here comes the new stuff. So first of all, capacity health is still there, but the capacity calculations are now just much more accurate. So let's look at capacity health to see if the network meets the capacity requirements that we have, which were pretty strict, like 300 clients in a pretty small area, stuff like that. And due to the extensive amount of client devices here, the tool does calculate for a while. Good time to sip some coffee. So Mikko, how are you? How's Finland, Mikko?
Wait, what? It's
Nothing,
pretty
just
cold.
making a conversation.
Oh yeah, I can trying to focus on the questions and then you. Thanks, Jussi.
Yeah, it's typical. I'm horrible like that. Sorry about that. Anyway, so looking at capacity health on both 2, 4, and 5, things look solid. So there's no red anywhere. So it does meet the airtime requirements, and there's of course no excessive number of clients. And by moving the mouse over any of the serving areas of the AP, we can see what's going on those channels where the AP is serving at that location. So on 2, 4, in this location, the AP is on channel 1. We have 46% airtime utilized. We have an X number of clients there. And then on 5 gigahertz, by far most of the clients are on 5 gigahertz, which is how it's supposed to be. And then 39% airtime utilized. Okay, so far so good, but our artificial band steering using transmit power differences seems to be doing its job. The network's solid. Let's look at this a bit further. Let's look at airtime utilization. This is a new heat map that we came out with to give you better tools for analyzing the capacity. So as we can see, it gets more towards the red color in the high capacity areas. But because capacity health said it's green, it means that the airtime still stays below that 70% threshold that we have for voice and data, but it does get actually pretty close to that on 5 gigahertz, as we can see here. So on the most crowded area and most crowded AP, we reach 69% airtime already. And on 2.4 gigahertz, we just get 22%. Let's look at another AP here. There we can see that there's plenty of airtime available. On 5 gigahertz, we utilize just 17%. On 2.4, we utilize just 12%. That's one side of the story. The other side is, let's look at 2.4 gigahertz only. And we can see how much airtime is obviously utilized on 2.4, but then the tooltip gives us now more details on what's going on in the air. So we can see on channel 6 in this location, how much is this AP consuming the airtime, how much are the other APs, so CCI, essentially, how much are the other APs consuming the airtime on the serving area of this AP. We can see how much the applications are using the airtime, different apps. We can see how the different clients are utilizing the airtime. And more importantly, we can see what frame types are utilizing the airtime. So in this case, it seems solid. So 23% is consumed by data frames, so the vast majority, and then just 3% control and 1% management frames. So in that sense, also a pretty solid network, right? But then So this is all good, and we can see that, yeah, it's actually a pretty decent design that it made, and we provide you with tools to analyze the capacity quite effectively. But then let's do the typical mistake of making a not so solid network. So let's run the autoplanner again, and now this is like don't try this at home kind of a scenario. So we're intentionally making a bad network here. I'm going to put in 20 dBm transmit power on both 2.4 and 5, so blasting full power on both radios, which is tempting, but hardly ideal in most cases. I'm going to set the I'm disabling 2.5, I'm setting the minimum data rates to the lowest, so 1 and 6 megabits per second, and I'm going to put, oh yeah, we need actually, the more SSIDs, the better, right? So no, it's really not, but let's assume that, the customer wanted to blast full power, tons of SSIDs, all data rates supported, just plain, don't try this at home type of a plan. And then we recreate it with the autoplanner. Sure, the autoplanner will not refuse to make the network, just as we as Wi-Fi engineers don't refuse to make a network for the customer, even if the customer demands may be a bit interesting at times. So here we go. The autoplanner did a fairly similar network, but due to the maximal transmit power, it just could not place the APs as close to one another as before. And then comes the interesting part once the calculation finishes, how much airtime is being utilized with this AP configuration. And we'll look at, let's say, 2.4 gigahertz here first. Here we go. So how's 2.4 looking like for this AP that we have, where we have the red color? Yeah, it looks pretty bad. So 76% utilization, so over the limit, and the beef is below here. So 21% of the airtime is utilized by management frames, which is hardly ideal. And this is because we increased the number of SSIDs and we supported the low data rates. Also, since the planner tries to avoid CCI, it made a pretty sparse network design. So we're still not getting, we are only getting 2% airtime from other APs here, which is reasonable, right? But it's just, you can hardly make a plan like this work given the extensive amount of management frames. Of course, we could do some, remedy measures here to the situation by utilizing band steering and then kind of trying to talk sense to the customer, trying to, minimize the number of SSIDs, stuff like that. But that's kind of how things work.
Hey, yes, you had a good question about how do we define areas where we don't want coverage, where we don't want to be included in our design.
Oh, good question, Nick. Very good question, actually. The areas are defined. Oh, and now I recalculated, so it will take a while. But there's a subset in the area tool called exclusion area, which then will exclude the areas from the design. And it's a similar area drawing tool. I'll show it to you in a second. It's a similar area drawing tool. And but as mentioned earlier, elevators, things like that, the algorithm tries to naturally avoid those like small closets and elevators and kind of obviously unreasonable locations for APs. So here's the exclusion area tool, similar to the area tool. Just press the down arrow here. You can utilize that. Good question, though. Okay, so one more maybe scenario that we could build here. Right now, I redesigned the network with just a more reasonable transmit power configuration, and it looks solid again. And you can access the network configuration later after running the autoplanner from project network configuration. And yeah, now we have reasonable minimum data rates, reasonable number of SSIDs per radio, no band steering. So what I'm going to do, and I don't think I've tried this with the 9.0, but let's introduce some legacy clients here and kind of try to break the network that way. So let's, for example, on 2.4. So 2.4 for now with this client device setup looks pretty good. So let's go right click on the area, edit, and introduce some legacy devices into the network and see what happens. So I'm gonna say these devices are, let's see what happens here. So we have a generic barcode scanner, and wonder what kind of, Mikko, do you remember what kind of barcode scanner do we have, or is that the one? It's like 802.11ac, is that correct? Yes. So let's put in generic or like legacy device. Here we go. And then 802.11b, obviously 20 megahertz. All right, so now we have 50 legacy devices in the network doing, let's say, 2 megabits per second, which is pretty much the maximum they could do anyway. and then let's recalculate and see what happens. So only 50 more devices added, but those are 802.11b again. So what happens to the network? Again, looking at 2.4 gigahertz, which obviously is where those devices would be added. This is also, one more tool to convince your customer maybe that, it might be a good idea to update those, let's say, legacy barcode scanners or whatever legacy devices you may have in the network into something more modern, so to speak. Time to sip some coffee. That's good coffee. I highly recommend Jittery Joe's coffee in Atlanta. So we still have green here. Wow. Now I would need to go back to the drawing board and understand what was happening here. But it looks like the network can take those client devices. Hard to believe though. I'll come back to that. Could be a demo effect. Anyway, so that's 9.0. Now would be a good time for any questions we may have. Nick, Jerry, Mikko, any frequently asked questions at this point?
Well, one thing that came up yesterday was what happened to the area node.
Great question. Mikko, what happened with the area node?
Well, what happened was that we moved it under the area tool. So we believe it's now more logical to have it within the same tool, which is used to define your coverage and capacity requirements.
Exactly. So if you right-click on the area and say Edit Area, the nodes are actually here. The rest of the nodes still stay in the same location, right? Any other questions?
There's actually plenty of questions, which is really positive. I haven't been able to reply. So.
This is Jerry. I've got one question here. I guess this isn't directly new to ESS 9, but there's a question about kind of talking about the attenuation areas versus walls. Specifically, they were talking about in reference to warehouse shelving.
Excellent question. I guess the way to describe it, and just for those that don't know the concepts, there's a wall tool in ESS to define the walls of the building, obviously, and then there's the attenuation area tool, which is for areas that are larger than walls. But the question, I guess, is which one should I use for warehouse shelves, walls or attenuation areas? And I would say depends on the width of the shelf. So if it's a very wide shelf, for example, you could use the attenuation area tool. Otherwise, you could use the wall because it's faster to draw. But the attenuation or the propagation and calculation is actually identical if you do a similar attenuation area or a wall. Isn't that, Mikko, is that right?
All right, you did it again.
So if you do a similar attenuation area or a wall, the calculation should be pretty much identical.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. One going here. Anything special about version 9? Do we still support outdoor surveys and indoor surveys, active and or passive surveys? Do we still support GPS?
Yes, it's all there in place still, active surveys, passive surveys, and GPS as well. So no change so far. And I realize that a lot of people are hoping for improvements for the GPS surveys and things like KML export and or import, stuff like that. And it's still on our roadmap, but we just haven't gotten to those items yet. And due to future announcements that you will see later, and Mikko will kill me if I say anything more, but it just makes sense for us to delay a little bit the KML and the further outdoor stuff at this point. That's all I can say for now, but you will find out why late this year or early next. So in short, the survey piece has not been touched in 9.0 almost at all, but there will be some pretty significant announcements for surveying later this year, actually within a couple of months. Any other questions?
Just one question that I will handle. Lots of people have been asking about, the change on the adapter, and I just want to make this totally clear. We're not removing support for the NIC 300 at all. It's just that you can't buy them anymore, so there's a replacement one. Okay. If you've got NIC 300s, keep using them. You're fine.
Exactly. Anything else, Jerry, Nick, Mikko? And feel free to answer them as well if you'd like.
We've got one question on the Revit files and the more advanced CAD types, and I can say that these are all file types that we would love to support, and they're on our we're aware of them, and as and when we can build support in for those, then we will. So please don't think we are not paying attention to the other types of building management file type floor plans.
Absolutely.
There was a question about being a 3D planner, and maybe I was busy answering questions if you covered this, UC. My apologies. But yeah, as far as multi-floor buildings, things like that, how does ESS 9.0 handle some of that? Is that part of the new capacity planning and things like that, multi-floor?
That's a great question. How does it handle multi-floor? Multi-floor is handled similarly to previous versions. So autoplanner works in multi-floor. It tries to stagger the APs, tries to optimize the channels between the floors as well. You just add more maps essentially to the tool, and then use the building view to kind of construct the building. So it's simple stuff, or simple to use, and don't be fooled as always by the two-dimensional user interface. You can put in APs to set them up to be really high. You can use down tilt, up tilt of the antennas, things like that, and of course floor-to-floor attenuation, even things like holes in the floor, stuff like that. So it's all there. It's all three-dimensional, unlike the other seemingly two-dimensional planners out there.
Excellent. Here's another good question that I'm kind of curious on myself. Understanding the new hallway avoidance capabilities, and there's a question about how the kind of algorithms work there to decide on what's a hallway versus like an aisle or something like in a warehouse. Is what's some of the intelligence behind that?
What an excellent question. So I don't think I can answer that at this point. I guess is the correct answer. But there's a bit of magic there, but I don't think we can uncover how it works right now due to reasons I am not allowed to foreclose here or discuss here. I know it sounds like the whole FBI director hearing, but I'm usually very open about this, but I just can't disclose it.
Let me make it easy for you. No, you're not allowed to explain it. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mikko. Hey, and mark this down, man. I kept my mouth shut for once.
How about hardware specs for the software with ESS 9.0? Does any of the minimum hardware specifications change as far as amount of RAM or CPU that's going to be needed?
It doesn't change, and we do realize that, especially the capacity calculations, because the system does simulate sending and receiving every single packet in the network, the capacity planning does take a lot of time. However, the minimum requirements do not change. The more RAM you have, the better. Especially, it's quite a RAM intensive, and the more processing power you have, the better. And it has supports. It totally takes advantage of multi-core stuff like that. But Mikko, aren't we kind of actually? What did we discuss this morning about the optimization? That it's gonna be pretty high up the priority list come this fall and come post 9.0.
Absolutely. So yeah, one of our research guys now kind of investigating that. He has an idea how we could do that, and we're now spending some time around that, and let's see what he can come up with.
Exactly. Hey, and by the way, my demo effect earlier was completely my fault. So remember how I configured the legacy devices into the network, and it was still showing green on 2.4. So I'll just quickly go back to the demo and show you why that was the case. And I'm sure some of you, probably even kind of got that, but I didn't. So during the Q&A, I was kind of wondering on why that exactly happened. And
or did you see the answer from the questions board?
No, I did not. I did not. Did somebody answer that already?
Yeah. Hold on. Wilfred Todd was the.
What was his answer?
No. You gotta show it first.
Okay, yeah. Because I haven't, honest to God, I haven't been looking at the questions board, but I'll just put the previous situation back. I'm just refreshing the screen. I'm sharing it with you now. This was pretty much the case after configuring those devices into the network. Hold on, it is still visualizing. So yeah, we were looking at 2.4, and I was wondering like why does it still show green on 2.4 and hardly any associated devices, even though I had configured the legacy devices there. So it looked like this, just a couple of devices here and there. And then I realized, so I put in 802.11b devices into the network, but here's how the network looks like. It's not letting any of those 2.4 gigahertz legacy 802.11b devices associate, obviously, given that I've set the minimum data rate to 12 megs per second. So let's drop that to 1 meg per second and recalculate and see what happens there. So wait for it, as they say. So I was almost ready to call our algorithm guy on his vacation and why does it not work? And this happens really frequently, by the way. I'm not very smart, so I go like, why does it not work? And then he's like, did you configure this, that, and the other? And I go, no. So yeah, that's exactly why. So now that we allowed legacy devices to associate, of course, the network is flooded. And bear in mind, we only added 50 802.11b devices, 50, and it's dead. The network is completely ruined, 100% airtime utilization. Even if we put in less devices, let's just put a couple of devices here. So instead of 50 legacy devices, we'll just put 10. Let's see what happens there. And anyway, so that's that. Was that also Wilfred Todd's answer? Mikko, was that what?
That was correct, yes.
I guess we need to send him a hoodie.
And like Sean Bender says, some Finnish crab candy, right?
Exactly. Sean Bender just loves that stuff. We need to publish a video of him eating 10 Finnish licorices, or sorry, Swedish. So yeah, here's a good example. We just introduced 10 legacy devices into the network, and this is what the airtime utilization looks like. Anyways, so that's that. It's just, you know, such a fantastic tool for understanding how Wi-Fi works. Any other questions? Because I'm out of demo. I could show. Yeah.
Hey, Jussi, would you be able to generate a report, or do you have a report generated? I know there's some pretty new nifty reports to be able to display some of this information, some of these statistics in the reporting, the one-click reporting now. Oh,
there is? Because I've never, to be honest, I've never tried it. I've never touched it. This is how disconnected I am. Mikko, can you talk about the new reporting tool?
No.
So do we have any? Yeah, we have the airtime utilization also for capacity and stuff like that. So all the heat maps are obviously there, and let's say there might be some new stuff in the template-based reporting as well. Nick, have you had any time to look at the new template-based reporting? Since you're our template guru.
Yeah, absolutely. So just I think the key thing to remember with the template-based reporting is that any visualization that you can create inside Ekahau, we can put into custom report templates. And the advantage of when you start playing with the report templates is that you can modify the variables of that visualization. So, for example, one visualization that's important for most reports is a map indicating the AP locations. So by adding the line scale, you can change the size of the AP spot. I mean, like if anybody out there wants to spend some time with me looking into report templates, I would welcome that. Best way to get hold of me for that, if you head to ekahau.com and scroll down the page, there is an area there where you can schedule an online demo. And if you put in your details there, then I'll be in touch, or Jerry would be in touch, and we can help you out with any specific queries that you guys may have. But yeah, so with version 9, just the new visualizations that have been added, they are now available in the custom report generator.
Very cool.
And the one-click report has been updated as well, and that looks different and new and shiny.
That's right.
Hey, Jussi, about the report template. So we're still in the middle of updating our user guide documentation, and especially when it comes to the report template. So they will be, so if you're looking for the new tags and so on, they will be there in a couple of days.
Very cool.
You want a question? I had a great question from Mike Kazimian.
Hey, Mike.
So are we able to measure the airtime? I mean, from passive surveys.
Great question, and this comes up frequently. Isn't it so that currently we don't measure the airtime from the APs, although some APs and even many APs provide the airtime utilization value? So this is a great question, but we don't do it today, do we? But it's definitely something we need to do in the future. So if you survey, you will get actual results of the airtime consumption. Is that fair?
That is correct. So yeah. As of today, we don't actually measure it. We can read it from the information elements if, in case the APs include that within the information elements, but we don't otherwise utilize it in any way.
Exactly. And yeah, it would make perfect sense. So today, how it works, even if you do a survey, and the capacity will always be calculated, but based on the surveyed access points, information like signal strength and the AP's capabilities, stuff like that. So you can use the capacity planner to kind of do what-if scenarios for an existing network as well, like how will this network support my increased capacity in the coming years and stuff like that. I hope I didn't overpromise, but I think that's how it works. Any other questions? And thank you, Mike, for the great question.
How about this quite often kind of comes up? How would you describe the difference between the NIC 300 and the new survey adapter?
The NIC 300 is white, where the new survey adapter is black.
Thank you.
No worries. Happy to help, man. In terms of differences, we've tried to minimize the differences. So we have extensively measured those adapters, at the office, at an RF laboratory, everywhere, and kind of made offset functions that so we detect that this is a Realtek-based adapter, and we kind of minimize the RSSI differences between those two adapters. So if you see different signal strength values, and this is kind of important actually, if you see different signal strength values on the new Ekahau adapter, let's say between a generic Wi-Fi tool and Ekahau's tool, it's because we normalize the differences. So we kind of automatically normalize the adapter to be as close as possible to NIC 300. You don't need to use any of the switches in the ASS user interface to do that. We automatically do that behind the scenes. So the raw measurements in ESS have already been, in a way, normalized so that the adapter resembles NIC 300 as close as possible. And we did extensive testing to make sure that it works both on 2, 4, and 5. Any other questions? We're getting towards
another good question. This might be one for Mikko about kind of backwards compatibility. So if I've started a project, let's say in 8.7.2 or something, and now I've upgraded to 9, can I continue to work on that project? Will I have any compatibility issues?
Yes, you can. So you can open the 8.7.2 project or any other older project with the latest ESS 9.0. However, now if within ESS 9.0 you go ahead and save that file, you're going to lose the backward compatibility, meaning that for a project file saved with ESS 9.0, you will not be able to open those with 8.7 or older versions.
Yeah, we put so much awesomeness in the new project file that it just doesn't open anymore.
Exactly. So the project file format itself is quite a lot different than on the previous version.
And speaking of awesomeness, real quickly, many of the heat maps now look much better, as you probably already noticed. Heat maps like associated AP has now a smoother look and feel to it, and capacity health, network health, all those visuals now look just how much was it? 68% better, right, Mikko?
Yes, scientifically calculated, exactly.
Yes, 68% prettier heat maps.
There are lots of great suggestions coming through in the questions box. I just want to remind everybody on the webinar that best way to communicate feature requests with Ekahau is via Twitter and using the hashtag ESSRequests. And if your suggestion requires more than 160 characters, then please drop an email to support@ekahau.com.
Alternatively, Mikko@ekahau.com.
It's okay.
Or is it even preferably Mikko?
It's okay. Jussi at Ekahau.
Anyways, any other questions?
Hey, Mike Jordan, that's a good question. So, will you be adding the dual 5 gig features to the channel optimizer for models built with static AP placement? So, channel planner, does it support the dual 5 gig optimization?
Where did we end up with this? Did it make it to 9.0 or will it be there in 9.1? I know we left some of the features out due to time pressure from Channel Planner. What was the end result, Mikko?
So we actually left it out from the Channel Planner because our research guy said that, well, this is a auto planner feature and it's completely kind of off the Channel Planner. So yeah, we don't have it at the moment with the Channel Planner, but we said that we need to do it because this question will sure come up. We usually will be missing this feature with the Channel
Exactly. The goal is certainly to have an auto planner and Channel Planner work identically in terms of feature set. So we'll put it there. Yeah, anything else?
There are, to be honest, quite a lot of questions, and there's no way we can cover all of this. It's very great to see so much interest to ESS and to Ekahau, but
yeah, that's actually a good point. That everything you're seeing here, the entire product was built because of you guys. So if we didn't have the active feedback and the communication with our customers, and if you didn't tell us before that our auto planner doesn't work as it's supposed to work, it doesn't work ideally, if you hadn't said that we need more tools to analyze the capacity and this thing needs to support the SSIDs and minimum data rate, stuff like that, this would have never happened. And that goes for the the life cycle of the product, and especially for the last 4 years, the product has been built pretty much purely based on customer feedback. So thank you guys, and it's great to see that together we put in a product like this.
And guys, if you still want to ask us, you can always contact our tech support either by email, support@ekahau.com, or just go to our support portal, support.ekahau.com.
And the support portal is all new as well, right? It hasn't been there for that long.
Exactly. So we have had our knowledge base over there, but now we also moved our user guides to the same place. So now we have all our documentation in one and same place.
So if you go to support.ekahau.com or docs.ekahau.com and just punch in search like, let's say, network health, the search now covers the knowledge base articles, it covers user documentation, everything, and you will see it all in the search results. And it's a pretty smart search as well. I know, Mikko, you and Jussi and the guys put in a lot of work into refurbishing the whole support portal. And to me, it looks and feels really awesome. And people tend to shy away from the vendor support portal, stuff like that. But this is not your average vendor portal. I think you guys just did a phenomenal job with it. Go check it out. I encourage everybody to go there and see how it works.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the guys from support keep adding videos there and how-tos and everything, on a weekly, monthly basis. So there's new stuff coming all the time.
Indeed, and also remember that all of our tech support guys are also on Twitter, so they do frequently share also very cool ESS tips and so on. The guys are actually using the hashtag ESS tip. So you might want to check out those tips as well.
Exactly, and Ekahau support is not only do the guys have their individual accounts, but there's also an Ekahau support Twitter account that you can reach out to.
Oh yeah.
Cool. I guess that's it. If there's no other frequently asked questions, and keep those questions coming, keep the feedback coming. But I'd like to thank you guys for joining the webinar. I'd like to thank you guys for making this product happen. So much appreciate that. Congratulations to Mikko and the team for putting all this together. Just a fantastic team effort, and it's been a great ride for sure. So yeah, it's good to continue from here. And Mikko, I understand we have some more product announcements coming up this year, don't we?
Hold on, let me double check. User Jussi giving. Oh, mute button. Yes, we do have some stuff coming up, but yeah.
You mute me. You muting me, man.
Yeah. I'm prepared. Just let me hit the button.
Okay, so I won't talk about the new stuff just yet. Enjoy ESS 9.0 in the meanwhile. It's an awesome product. We really hope you like it. It's just gonna get better. Stay tuned for the updated versions and everything. And yeah, let us know. Especially more importantly, let us know how you like the tool, how it's working for you, how accurate do you find the capacity planner, everything. Yeah, yeah, reach out to us on Twitter as well. So Ekahau support, Mikko, Jerry has the awesome JAll Twitter tag, and Nick has his as well. So follow us on Twitter, come see us, join us on the roadshow. And when's the next? We will also be at the at different shows. I guess we have the Ekahau Master, and then coming up in September, and then we have the CWNP conference where we'll be going, WLPC Europe, and then we have our own UK event as well. But you need to contact openreality.co.uk to participate in the UK event as well. So lots of stuff coming up in the fall, but more about that later. For now, I'll let you go and start the new ESS and enjoy it. Let us know how it works. Thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks a lot, Mikko. Thanks a lot, Jerry, for joining. This is Jussi signing out.
Over and out. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.